Hello, I am Miss Marcy. I am the Education Coordinator for Starwood Schools. This is my 6th year in this position. However, I began at Starwood Schools as a primary guide. I was a primary guide at Starwood Montessori School for approximately 8 years. For many years, I have provided support and guidance to Starwood families at this pivotal time in their child's education, ages 5 and 6. Starwood Schools are an authentic Montessori experience and vibrant school community where bright, curious children become engaged learners, confident individuals, and prepared achievers who make education their own. This presentation will offer you a look at a brief but very important portion of a child's Montessori journey, the final year of primary. The photos on this slide capture the development of the children we serve from infancy all the way through middle school. I encourage you to view other What's Next presentations and recordings that provide you further information about other developmental levels, sharing how Starwood Schools meets each specific level's developmental needs. We are a high-fidelity Montessori school and part of the American Montessori Society. All of the programs we offer are guided by our values, our legacy, and the outcomes we project for our graduates. Viewing our What's Next series is a great way for our current families to gain further understanding of a student's journey when enrolled at Starwood Schools. In this presentation, I will share with you briefly how and why the final year of primary is essential and how it solidifies a foundation for lifelong learning. This quote of Dr. Montessori's summarizes the passion for my work. Maria Montessori observed that education or learning starts at birth. In fact, the period of age birth to age 6 is the most critical and influential. This is when the absorbent mind of the child is developing, all of the foundational neurons or the brain cells that will prepare them for greater academics and these lifelong skills and learning. As a parent of 3 who are no longer children, but rather ages 24, 23, and 18, I truly believe in the investment of a child's education during early childhood and have experienced that this develops individuals who are resourceful and hardworking and that have developed purpose along with a sense of responsibility, finding their place in the world, and just true happiness. So let's answer the question, why is Montessori essential for ages 5 and 6? We begin with a look at the planes of development. Dr. Montessori recognized that during our growth, we experience different stages of development. Each stage has its own characteristics and sensitive periods. These sensitive periods are when we are most apt to develop and master specific skills that are foundational for us to develop and be successful at the next stage. So in this presentation, we're working with that first triangle, that first plane of development of early childhood, and specifically looking at the finalization of this stage. So these are our pillars that are formed in this stage of development during the sensitive periods. Independence, coordination, concentration, and order. As a parent in Starwood schools, you've likely heard of these before, probably from your guides during a conference time, or possibly in some other parent education resource that our school has provided. I'd like to take the time, though, to look at each briefly, giving you examples of their significance in the classroom. Significant skills and tools that are needed for that next phase of development. So we'll start with independence. It's the ability to care for your belongings, organize those items in your cubby. It's also the ability to communicate needs, to express when help is needed, or to tell a guide if someone else may need some help or assistance. It's also the ability to keep oneself engaged in a task and proceed to the next step without assistance or reassurance. Independence is also the ability to make proper choices and to act on them. These are all big skills to develop. Looking at coordination in the classroom means it's the ability to cross the room and walk across the room without disturbing others, even if it involves carrying large objects across the room. Coordination can also be the control of movement, the ability to sit still for a period of time in order to pay attention to a lesson or to keep from bothering others. Concentration is the ability to engage in a task even if there are distractions around, and to focus until completion. And order not only means staying organized and keeping all your items in place, as well as returning them properly to the shelf for someone else to use, but it also refers to temporal order, meaning being able to use your time effectively and to self-manage for a period of time. Many of these skills are related to what scientists now are referring to as executive functioning skills. This is related to the development of the prefrontal cortex. And though it takes 20 years for the prefrontal cortex to fully mature, executive functioning skills, right, those neural connections that are made in our brain, are built through experiences. Experiences that are provided to your child in a Montessori classroom. You see on this chart the rapid growth between birth to age 6 for executive functioning skills. Attending Miss Rao's What's Next presentation will give you insight also into this very important stage in adolescence, where the prefrontal cortex again goes through a period of development. So how do we support these skills and these experiences for the child in the Montessori classroom? One of those is through the freedom of choice. The skill of making choices needs to be developed in children. It's unfair to expect that older children would know how to make good choices if we never provided them the opportunity to build these skills. The comfort of a prepared Montessori environment provides these opportunities to children to choose their materials and to choose how long they need to complete a task. Freedom within limits simply means that we meet the child at their level of managing freedom. Initially, a child new to a Montessori environment needs more controls present in the environment to be successful. However, the child in a final year of primary is ready to manage more freedoms and role model to younger students how to make good choices. It's time for them to start practicing freedom of choice and making choices so that this is a skill that they've developed. And again, remember, these are the skills early on we want formalized and established before moving on to higher learning. Another example is the way that peace, respect, and mindfulness are weaved into day-to-day learning in a Montessori environment. Exercises in mindfulness, like reflection and goal setting, play a significant role in the development of executive functioning skills. They're directly related to supporting children in building their skills of self-control and emotional regulation. A child in the final year of primary understands their purpose to the classroom community, and they take pride in helping others and showing empathy for others and learning how to resolve conflicts. The development of concentration comes about because of long, uninterrupted work periods. In traditional education, children experience strict schedules, and it is common that children experience transitions throughout the day and short periods of time to complete tasks. They are given instructions and directions at each step and expected to follow them. In a Montessori classroom, we honor the work of the child and see this as part of the child's work. We want the child to develop not only the ability to make choices, but also the ability to stay focused for an extended period of time to work through challenges. Daniel Pink, the best-selling author of Drive, states this, that education is set up to create short-term motivation with a system that is based on rewards and praise. However, for lifelong learning and long-term results, he states that we need to focus upgrading our motivational approach to provide students autonomy, mastery, and purpose. Dr. Montessori discovered this long ago. Children need to feel a sense of ownership of their learning. Children are not an empty vessel that we fill with knowledge, but rather capable learners that are naturally motivated. Our Montessori environments honor children's natural curiosity rather than destroying it and setting boundaries to what they're capable of learning. So let's return for a moment to thinking about that diagram of the planes of development that was shared earlier. And think about how this time for a 5-year-old is the completion of the stage of their development rather than the beginning, such as is common in traditional education with kindergarten. Right? We're forming that Roman arch, that foundation for learning for a child to experience greater learning in their academics through elementary. So a 5-year-old at Starwood schools, having already started their journey in primary, begins the school year not at the academic level of the majority, but rather continuing their academics at their specific level. Primary guides with years of experience will be able to communicate to you how rewarding it is to work with 5- and 6-year-olds because their days are filled with these aha moments. This is because as a child is advancing into this stage of development, they're beginning to make this transition from understanding things concretely or through hands-on work, such as building numbers with bead material or constructing words from letters that they hold in their hands, and feeling shapes to introduce themselves to geometry. So they're taking those concrete experiences and they're starting to develop into abstraction. This process will continue into their elementary years, but they start really connecting in that final year of primary and grasping, not just going through the steps of a lesson, but really understanding the depth of their work and really forming an understanding of those lessons. And this year of leadership, right, that children are experiencing because they've observed this 3-year cycle. They've seen the journey of their peers being in these leadership roles. And now they're excited that this is their rite of passage, their time to be leaders amongst their peers. There's a few other elements of a Montessori environment that I want to touch on. One of them is more specific to Starwood schools, and that is learning outcomes. Learning outcomes are what we utilize as a school, similar to state standards. State standards are TEKS, or Texas Essential Knowledge and Skills. And as educators, we have an awareness of these, but we also observe and work with children in a Montessori environment and know that they're often capable of much more than what state standards require. So we as a school look at learning outcomes and we want to integrate those concepts of Montessori like mastery and depth and holistic development that are so valuable to the outcomes in a child's learning. Again, not putting any sort of boundary to a child's learning and what they're capable of, but to look at learning outcomes in a way of what would we expect a Montessori child to be ready for before going to the next stage. So it's important as parents that you know that as a staff, we work hard to establish learning outcomes that give us the tools to communicate classroom to classroom so that we're working horizontally in alignment from one classroom to the next, as well as vertically, meaning primary level scaffolding to the lower elementary and lower elementary to upper elementary, and so on. That it's a scaffold approach that is consistent for the child in their journey to get to the end of their journey with those graduate outcomes. So what is PLC? Primary Leaders Club. Primary Leaders Club is a program specific to Starwood schools. It is for a student that will be turning 5 before or on September 1st. Years ago, our initial goal was simply to highlight the year of leadership that children in their final year of primary were experiencing. And that's how the PLC started. However, the students took ownership of this program, as we know, right, Montessori children are capable of, showing great enthusiasm for the networking that was happening between the classrooms, primary to primary with the PLC students, as well as getting integrated into the school community and having a presence within the school community. So this has developed into the PLC being a group that regularly has events and activities that help to support leadership and team building, that foster social connection, and help students learn about the next stage. Students that are 5 and 6 years old are in this state of emergent reading. They're refining their reading skills, they're gaining fluency with their reading, and they're eager to share this achievement with others. So reading to others is a regularly scheduled activity for PLC students. We've even had some PLC students this year venturing into the roles of authors and illustrators, creating their own books to share with their peers. PLC students are confident. They've earned this moment to shine in their leadership year. So it is important for us to provide them plenty of opportunities to do so. Though health and safety protocols this year have challenged us with learning how to utilize technology to develop new ways for our students to display their abilities, we completed an art show during the first semester, and we will be working on a play during the second semester. It's also important for our PLC students to have experiences that allow them to feel purposeful, not only in their classroom community, but to being seen throughout the school community. This year, the students did a coin collection, raising money, doing chores at home, and with the funds collected, they purchased flowers and gift cards and made cards of appreciation for our custodial staff. During the second semester, we integrate activities and events that really connect the PLC students to the lower elementary classrooms. This school year in January, both levels will celebrate literacy with Reading Roundup Week, including lower elementary recording readers' theater presentations for the PLC students to view. And then in February, we'll be hosting a PLC Q&A. This is an annual event, and it will consist of the lower elementary third-year students preparing a recorded tour of Starwood Academy and the lower elementary experience. Then there will be a live Zoom session that is hosted for the PLC students to ask questions of the lower elementary students to learn more about their time to come in lower elementary. In May, we conclude our semester with a bridge ceremony celebrating PLC and all students that are moving up to the next level. Our goal is to prepare PLC students for a smooth transition. Thank you for watching this presentation. I really hope that you reach out to us if you have any questions, and we can help support you in making these decisions for your child going into their very important PLC year. Thank you.